on Kiwi.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Talking politics with Russell Norman.
Leader of the Greens, it's Russell Norman. Morning, Russell.
Morning, Wammo.
Good morning. Now, yesterday in Parliament, you were quizzing John Key about his interview on the BBC Hardtalk programme, where he was, in turn, quizzed about New Zealand's 100% pure advertising campaign, where the interviewer, Saka, pointed out that, well, New Zealand not so 100% pure. All your lowland rivers, or most of your lowland rivers, seem to be all a bit dirty. Plus, there's the species that are being made extinct as well. And you asked John Key yesterday in Parliament about our dairy operations and how dairy affects rivers, because he seemed to admit that dairy operations in New Zealand do pollute rivers, didn't he?
He did. In the interview, he was forced to concede that that dairy intensification has caused some level of water pollution, which is an admission for the government.
When you quizzed him about how much the dairy operations in New Zealand affect rivers, was he able to give a clear answer?
No, he tried to play it all down and said, the impact's not that great, basically. The issue is that, the New Zealand, obviously, the Clean and Green brand is worth a huge amount of money to us. I mean, one of the Interbrand study in 2005 said it was worth $18 billion to New Zealand. And that brand is being eroded because of the way we're trashing the joint. And that really came to the fore in the BBC interview, where the BBC interviewer actually, unlike most of the interviews of John Key in New Zealand, that they actually just didn't take John Key's swipe off and continued to ask questions.
Have you seen the whole interview? It's brilliant.
No, I haven't actually. I just saw the bit about water.
It's very good if you can get a hold of a copy. It's great.
Right, okay. But, I just think it shows this is the economic risk to the ongoing destruction of our environment, and even people who care for nothing but money, and there's quite a few of them in the present government, should take note that they will destroy our economy on their current course.
One element of that particular part of the interview that was also concerning for me was John Key's attitude to science. When it was pointed out to him that it was a particular scientist who was saying that our lowland rivers were polluted and we had all these species going extinct, he said, "Oh well, scientists like lawyers. I can find you many who probably would say quite the opposite."
Yeah, I agree. It was a very surprising attitude towards science, whereby I guess he doesn't believe in science. I mean, we know that, his attitude towards climate change was that it was just a big hoax until a few years ago. And so I guess his attitude towards science is that it's all bunkum, which is pretty surprising, really.
Though I don't think that's his words. I think it's, I don't agree with that proposition, I think is the... It's the words that he used that phrase probably about 10 times throughout the interview. Yeah,
I mean, the guy he was talking about, Dr. Mike Joy, is one of our leading scientists. I mean, the Science Media Centre put out a statement yesterday about this issue, about the water quality issue, and they had quotes from New Zealand's leading water scientists, including Mike Joy, of course. And, for John Key to say, oh, well, I just shop around for whatever science suits me, I think doesn't really have a good understanding of how science works.
Now, the national government, of course, have announced this water quality bill, and John Key says, well, there's enough provisions in the bill that, to protect our waterways from intensive dairy farming. Do you agree with that?
No, it's a national policy statement on freshwater management. Under the Resource Management Act, the central government can put out these national policy statements which are binding on regional government and local government. And the draft version of this document would have required that anyone planning to intensify their agricultural activities, say convert to dairying, would have needed a resource consent as a discretionary activity. And the current government knocked that section out of the draft. So the only bit in the draft, the draft has, it was good, but it needed teeth, and it had teeth. And the teeth were that basically until some rules were put in place around clean water, then all attempts to intensify would need a resource consent. And of course the dairy companies scream blue murder because the idea of having to get a resource consent before they could intensify is just, as far as they're concerned, unacceptable, because everyone else should wear their pollution. What's it got to do with them? And so what Nick Smith did is he took the teeth out. So now it's a nice, worthy document that says nice things at great length about how we'd like to do nice things to the environment because we're such nice people. But if that doesn't happen, then, that's too bad. So there's nothing to make anything happen in it now. It's a tragedy, actually. It's a missed opportunity. How
do you counter the argument? Because this is the argument that many New Zealanders seem to agree with John Key on, that there is this need to balance the environment with the economy. And in that statement, I mean, it's a very loaded statement, but a lot of people seem to agree with it, whatever you're agreeing with when you agree with that statement.
Yeah, I think it's true, and I think if you look at our civilization, collectively we have been amazingly stupid. I think so we go along with statements like that. So what does it mean, balance? It means that this year we're going to degrade the environment by another, say, 10%. In order to grow our economy by a few percent. And then next year we're going to degrade it by, say, another 10% or, say, 5%. And so year after year we slowly, because we want to balance a bit more environmental degradation against a bit more GDP growth, year by year we lose the natural environment on which we depend for our very existence. So the climate system on which our civilization absolutely depends, the stability of the climate system, each year we degrade it a little bit more by throwing some more carbon dioxide in there, just so we can get economic growth. And as a species, this is what we've been doing, and it will be the death of us.
So when, say, someone like John Key says that statement and puts that across, he's trying to get people to think that, okay, well, we can put up with this amount of pollution if we get this amount of the economy, and that pollution is constant. But what you're saying is that, well, no, year on year, it's pollution on top of pollution on top of pollution, so therefore the environment just keeps on getting degraded. It's not degraded at a constant rate.
Yeah, so it's getting, every year our environment gets more degraded. If you look at, greenhouse emissions, or you look at the state of the rivers. I was down on the Rakaia River the other day, so there's a proposal to take just a bit more water out of the Rakaia River. It's already been a lot taken in the past, but we're just going to take a bit more, and so year on year on year, until we find what we've got now, where we have a water quality crisis. There's so much pollution that's been added little bit by little bit, and also so much water taken out of them. And here we are. I think, that kind of thinking is the kind of thinking that is going to destroy our civilization.
Yeah.
And we need this life support system called planet Earth. I mean, people may not like it or whatever, but I mean, the truth is that human beings depend on planet Earth for their survival, and if we destroy it, we're going to suffer.
No human beings without environment, no economy without environment. Just very quickly before we go, John Key in the Herald this morning is saying that we cannot afford KiwiSaver, so he is announcing some changes. Do you think we can afford KiwiSaver?
Well, we can if we want to. I mean, KiwiSaver is not, not the absolute everything. The proposals he's going to make aren't the end of the world. The thing about KiwiSaver is you do get some level of savings around it, but also you get quite a bit of diverted savings. So savings that would have otherwise happened elsewhere happen through KiwiSaver. So it's not the absolute end of the world to tweak the system. The bigger picture is that the reason why the government's in such a big fiscal hole is because they gave away $14 billion in tax cuts to the top 25%. Most people got very little. And so the government's in a hole. They thought they'd get some of it back through the GST increase, but of course people have been spending less and saving more, so the GST take has dropped very dramatically. And so the government is in a huge fiscal hole, and it created that hole.
And it was predicted as well.
Yeah, of course. It was obvious.
Russel Norman, co-leader of the Greens, thanks for your time.
Okay, cheers.
Track now from Chris Humm. This is called